So this is my 90-gallon mixed reef tank. I'll come in closer and I'll show you what's in it. But before I do that, this canopy on top, I built that myself. Pretty proud of it actually. I needed some specific requirements to house the cooling fans and the two LED Ecotech lights that I have in there. Couldn't find anything to do that, so I built it myself. It's pretty cool. It's got a top that I can lift up that houses the fans and the lights, and two doors that, as you can see, there's two levels in here. One level holds the fans and the lights on top, and you can see the LED lights in there. So, yep, I built that myself. Anyway, back to the fish tank. I'll go from left to right. There's my cleaner shrimp. That's one of my wave makers. This guy right here is a candy cane coral. It started as two heads. Each one of those circular thing you see is a head, and it started as two heads, and now it's approximately, I say, about 150 heads. So it's grown quite a bit. On the back wall, there are some blue polyp corals that are attached to the back wall there. And I'll show you some more of those in a second. If we go down here, these are mushroom corals. They're growing all along this rock. And this little guy right here, he is a frog spawn. He's a two-head frog spawn. I had him as a one-head frog spawn, and he's grown quite a bit. This big guy, as you can see, is a bubble coral. It's actually 3 colonies of bubble corals in one. So when it shrivels up, you can see the 3 distinct colonies, but now they're fully expanded. So they're a pretty good size. Right there is my maroon clownfish living in his favorite anemone. As you can see, there's multiple anemones in the fish tank. There's one there, one in the back over there, one in front, a small one there, and the main one that he lives in. So there's a total of 6 anemones. They all started as just one, and he split multiple times. At a point I had about 20 or 30 anemones, and I had to catch them all when they were moving around in the tank and let go of the rocks, and I sold them all because wherever they go, they would kill all the corals that they touch because they sting all the corals to death. So this green guy in the back is a piccolo coral. He's an SPS, which is a small polyp stony coral. They're made mostly of, the SPSs are made mostly of hard shell, and they have these small polyps that grow out of them into huge colonies. So that's a colony of a piccolo coral. As you can see, that whole rock is covered in purple, tiny purple polyps. Each one of those tiny polyps is a single coral. There's thousands and thousands of them growing all over the live rock, as you can see, all in the back here. And as I move over, you can see this live rock is covered with them. This green coral in the back, that's the green star polyp coral. They grow into colonies as well, and they expand quite a bit. But the little tiny purple blue polyp corals are taking over. This is I believe a brown bird's nest. And no, it's not a bird's nest. It's a brown antler coral, and it's growing. I had a tiny little bit of it. It broke off to the piece on the right over here, and that's growing as well, but it's being surrounded by that purple polyp coral. And you can see there's mushroom corals in between the purple polyp corals. This whole rock used to be covered with mushroom corals, and then the purple polyp corals just took over. We come down here, that's a hairy mushroom coral. Some more purple polyp coral, as you can see. Some more anemones right here. This is my brown bird's nest. It was a small piece, about 1 centimeter big, and now it's grown into several antlers that stick out. You can see another anemone in the back. Right here, this whole rock is covered in mushroom coral. So we started with 1 or 2 mushrooms and it just grew and grew and grew. And here's a big colony of green star polyp coral. Again, it's a small colony and it starts to grow. Some more purple polyp coral. This is one of my favorites. It's a hammer coral. Started as 1 head. Now there's about 20 heads in there. And you can, if you look closely, you can see some smaller heads in here that are growing out as well. So that's growing. I have another colony of hammer corals. Some more. There's a hermit crab, reef hermit crabs. Some more polyp corals. And as you come over here, this is a toadstool. He's actually asleep right now, but when he's awake, all his green polyps extend out, long green polyps that wave around in the water, and it's real pretty. But unfortunately, he's asleep right now. This is my brain coral. He's almost fully expanded. When he expands, he's actually a lot bigger. This is a Kenya tree coral. It's a green torch tree coral, and it's somewhat fully expanded, but it's late in the evening, so he's actually going to sleep as well. We move over here to some more coral. This is a frog spawn. Love frog spawns. They fully extend and they send out feeder tentacles all around. I have a lot of fish in here, but they're all camera shy in the back. As you can see, my yellow tang, my powder blue tang, and those whiskers are from my coral banded shrimp in the back. It's hard to see right there. So there's my maroon and gold striped clownfish. He's the king of the tank. He's the meanest one. He'll chase them all around. My cleaner shrimp, I believe you already saw. I got so much coral growing. They're growing out of the water spouts, the water returns that are pushing the water out. We come over this side. Some of my red fire shrimp. Okay. Have a lot of these. I don't know if you can see it, but fan worms. Love these guys. There's thousands of them growing all over the rocks. They filter the water. They're a little worm that build up these hard crust tubes. They live inside them and they stick out these fans that filter the water for food, and it cleans the water and eats all the nutrients in the water. There's literally thousands of them all over the rocks growing. As you can see, they're here, here, here. They're all over the place. I love them. And they're just growing everywhere. We come to this side of the tank. There's another blood fire shrimp that's crawling around there, and there's another one on the sand over there. Lots more of those polyp corals and fan worms, mushroom corals growing all over the place. Another colony of candy cane coral, and from this angle you can see some more hard corals. My green, I forgot what that's called. Some more anemones and some more fish back there that's hiding because they're camera shy. And you can see all the anemones that are growing down the tank. This is one of my wave makers, and as you can see, it's covered in the blue polyp coral and a little green piccolo coral that's growing on the side right there. So all of my equipment is beginning to be covered in coral as coral propagates and grows. So let me take a step back and you can kind of see the whole tank right here. Normally it should be teeming with fish, but they're all camera shy for some reason. Show you some of the equipment. These are the controllers for my wave makers. They're actually Wi-Fi to communicate with each other, and there's a master and a slave, and it controls how the waves go. You can make hard waves, short waves, slow waves, harsh waves, any kind of waves you want. There's a night mode. It communicates with the lights, so if the lights is doing a thunderstorm, it will mimic the thunderstorm waves, and I'll show you. So right now it's if you look at the water, it's a standard wave. So you can see the corals waving, or the anemones waving back and forth, sort of a standard wave motion, as if we're in a natural reef. You can kind of see back there the wave motion. If you look at the wave, I can adjust the waves, and you can see it intensifies. There you go. I'm turning it up. Right there. And then in a second, there you see the waves are actually intensifying. And you can see it splashing up and down much faster, much more rapidly. And I can turn it down, right there. And I can completely turn off the waves when I'm feeding. I'll put it in feeding mode. And the waves are off. And the water's calm, and there's no waves. And you see the corals stop moving, because in feeding mode I don't want the food to fly around everywhere. So the anemones, there's no waves in the water now, so the anemones and everything are not moving anymore. I'll show you what's down here. This is the refugium area, and as you can see, that is filling up my water because the sensor is sensing that there's less water, because I stopped the pumps, and when I stop the pumps it doesn't push as much water down here, so the sensor triggers and it fills the water up. That's where that little water trickling from the pipe is. Now to show you what's going on, this is the protein skimmer. All that nasty black stuff in there, that's the protein that is skimmed from the water. And the protein skimmer cleans the water and also aerates the water as well. So that's an added benefit. And this is the sump. Those drain pipes and return pumps. Those drain pipes come down from the main tank, and the return pump pumps the water back up. There's several pumps, and I'll explain what they are. In here is my refugium. This is a grow light, and inside there, as you can see, there's a bunch of macroalgae, and that's a macroalgae called chaeto, and what it does, it absorbs all the nutrients in the water as it grows. Normally I would cut it back to a golf ball size, and then it grows into the big mass, and then I would just grow everything out, just save a golf ball size, and then grow back to the big mass again, soaking up all the nutrients in the water. And I don't know if you can see it, but I'll try to show you. It's hard to see. If you look closely at the glass, you see tiny little critters crawling around, and those are pods and mysis shrimp growing in there. They grow in the chaeto and the algae and in the rocks down here, and they're a natural food source. So there's literally probably tens of thousands of these little mysis shrimp crawling around. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can get one. Right there. If you look closely, you see things crawling and moving around along the glass. Those are actually tiny little mysis shrimp and pods. And what they do is they live in and breed inside this algae, and then they crawl over to the pump section, and the pump pumps them and pushes them up through this return pipe that goes up through the tank and out that spout, and then is a natural food source for the fish as well. So there's lots of stuff going on. Let me explain some of the stuff here. This little blue pipe a minute ago was spitting water in. Now it's stopped because those wires back there contain two sensors. It's hard to see. Let me see if I can get them. Those two sensors there, there's one on top and one on bottom. This blue tube is connected to my water filter in the utility room, and whenever the water evaporates and goes down, the sensor triggers it, and it opens up the valve in the pump to fill the water back up. So the reason there's two is that, you know, kind of like all of our IT systems, there's a DR and a failsafe. There's two in there in case the primary valve fails and it overfills the water. It would go to the secondary valve, it senses the water, and it shuts it off, so that my living room doesn't get overflowed with water. Sort of a fail-safe system. Same thing with the pumps. If I do ever get let me go back up here. This is a sump. So there's the return for the sump on the side. It's hard to see, but there's multiple pipes in there. If one return pipe gets clogged, the water would rise up, and then there's a second return pipe that's a little bit higher that would allow the water to drain back down in the sump. So that, again, if a return pipe gets clogged, my living room doesn't get filled with salt water. So there's redundancy built in left and right. Even in the pumps, there's 2 wave makers. If one wave maker should fail, turn them back on. These are the controllers from. If one wave maker should fail, there's a second wave maker to mimic the wave effects of the ocean. As you can see, I just turned on the wave makers and the waves are moving the fish and the anemone again. There they go. So same thing with lights. Those are 2 ballasts with backup powers for my 2 sets of LED lights that light the tank. If one should go out, the other one should be able to provide enough light until I get a replacement for it, so the corals won't die. Again, same thing with heaters. There's actually those 2 black pipes in there are dual heaters. If one heater should go out, another heater should fill its place. Again, I also have a temperature sensor or controller. So this is the temperature controller. It is connected to the heater. And what it does is it controls the power to the heater. So in the event that one heater malfunctions and overheats the water, that temperature controller senses that and then shuts off the power to both of the heaters. Again, that's sort of a disaster recovery, fail-safe type of environment that we have for the fish tank here. So that if one heater or both heaters should malfunction and turn on and won't turn off, it won't cook the tank. The temperature controllers would sense that, shuts off the power to the heater. In addition, if the water gets too hot, the temperature controller would sense that, turns on the fans, and cools the tank down in the process as well. So kind of all the backup, redundancy, fail-safe DRs we have, kind of like our IT systems, is all built into the tank as well. So that's just a quick look at my fish tank. Well, that's it.